to answer each of the questions, and then we will move on to the next. We'll move down the line and then start with the next person for the next question. While the candidates are speaking, we ask that you maintain some civility, whisper if you need to talk at all, or step away if anything else needs to happen. We're looking forward to getting the most important issues out so that we can all make informed decisions next week. Candidates, do you have any questions before we get started?
Will there be bathroom breaks?
No. I don't think so. We're not planning to be here that long. If you need to go, now would be a good time, I guess, but not on the stage. Somewhere else would be good.
My opponent has a weak bladder.
No, I was just making sure that those of us who have weak bladders are, taken care of and properly accommodated.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, I think everyone here probably knows who you are, so we'll start with the issues on the economy. And the first question will start with Kyder, since he's on the far left this time, unlike Barron. And the first question is, how do you plan to promote and encourage small business growth here in Los Santos?
Thank you for the question. It is very important that we have every resource available to not only inspire people to launch new businesses, ones that we don't even know could exist in the city, but also inspire them to have the courage to step forward and do all the documentation and paperwork. It is an arduous process. I had to pursue it for my own business with SecuroServe, and I'm still in the process of launching a strategy that is more inclusive and helping escalate, expedite, and assist. I'd like to encourage everybody to download my plan, and we will have dedicated down halls in regards to improving that process, because right now it's just too much friction and it's too long to even see any progress, let alone see any improvements or feedback. Barry Kibler from the Wide Load Trucking has been working very hard on improving the trucking. I've been working very closely with him as well as Dr. Straag to answer questions, but just because you're doing an important business doesn't mean all the other businesses are less important. They should still have that same support with the mayor's office and any other resources in the city, such as the San Andreas Chamber of Commerce, also known as SAC. My administration would make that not a luxury, but rather an expectation, and we will deliver on that process together.
All right, thank you, Kyder. Barron, you're up next.
I know what it takes to run a business very well, having started Weasel from the ground up. And one thing that I've been noticing is that it's very hard for businesses to get started due to the cost to get started, as well as it takes a very long time to recoup those costs. For example, if you were a criminal, you could make $100,000 a day fairly easily if you were to be a very good criminal and be able to go to the banks and, clear the vaults, right? Likewise, it would take approximately 100 hours of work for an average citizen to make the same amount of money. So I think that we need to focus on getting a Chamber of Commerce started, reduce costs and obstacles of starting businesses, and make it easier for the average citizen to realize their visions.
All right, thank you, Barron. Dr. Straag.
So, kind of piggybacking off of what Barron said, there are a lot of artificial barriers when it comes to starting a business in town. The initial cost, of course, but one of the larger problems seems to be the actual process of acquiring a business license and making it accessible. And right now, that job is held with the Department of Justice. What I would like to see with the mayor's office is taking a lot of that overhead, a lot of that busy work, that paperwork away from the Department of Justice, giving them more of an opportunity to do the things that's important to them while leaving the business of business to the mayor's office. Because let's face it, our jobs up here are to make sure that everyone's life in this city is smoother and easier to deal with. And if we can cut through some red tape and provide a visible way to show that we're making that happen with a responsive team that is dedicated to just this one task, I think that's going to make a lot of people a lot happier in making those new business ventures, in moving out and starting that new project. The artists, the actors, the musicians, the record labels, the food stands. These are all people who have a lot of this stuff that's stopping them from doing what they need to do, and I want to make sure that they can go out there and do it.
All right, thank you, Dr. Straag. Kaz?
In regards to small businesses, I agree that not enough is being done right now to support them. And I think that SAC is the best tool moving forward for those businesses to get the support that they need. But I also think that it's necessary that people show that they're serious. I believe in creating a council of people with SAC that can review applications of small businesses so that we can get salaries applied to those people so that they aren't breaking their back, making no money, trying to support a business and not being able to take on staff because they can't afford to pay them. I think the most important thing is not only that we help these businesses get started, but we have a route for them to grow on. That means we need to help them with planning and development. Find them a building that they can work out of if that's something that they want. Get them salaried so that they aren't relying on government social security just to get by. And I also think that we need to push out, that we need to expand our businesses outwards outside of Los Santos to provide opportunity for competition, not just in industry, but in geographic location.
All right, thank you, Kaz. So our second question is very related, and it relates to housing, vehicles, and other high-value items, which are still very unaffordable for many residents. Is there any role for the mayor to address these types of issues, such as perhaps a base minimum wage? For instance, Burger Shot employees currently are hired at $400 per pay period, while Cockatoo's employees make only $350. We'll start with Barron this round.
This is right along the lines of what I was trying to get the point across before. Basically, you know, if you're earning that kind of money and you want a decent vehicle in the $300,000 range, you're looking at like 250 hours of work just to buy that vehicle. And that's a lot of time. That's, you know, almost 100 days. So is it reasonable that you should expect a citizen to wait 100 days just to buy an average vehicle? Probably not. We should look at why the cost of these vehicles is so high. Is PDM upcharging just to increase their commissions? And if so, why? It does not make sense that that much effort is required just to get a $300,000 vehicle, with the upper limit being, I think, 1.5 million. So then you're looking at 500 days of effort for an average citizen to get that.
All right, thank you, Barron. Dr. Straag.
Okay, first off, I'm perplexed at the idea that the average vehicle costs $300,000, because all of the cars I've been looking at have been like 80,000, 90,000. Like the motorcycle I want that's the best for me is like 120. I don't know where these prices are coming from, but I can say, as far as minimum wages go, I think it's a good idea for us to be able to raise it. Ultimately, though, I'm not entirely sure that's the kind of thing that the mayor's office is going to have access to changing. We can make recommendations. Like, we can put the information together. We can ask the people in town and make that happen. Yeah, but that's from a tax base issue. Like, in order to make that money go into people's pockets, we need to tax it from somewhere else. And I don't see necessarily how that would work out. No one is really a big fan of getting extra taxes, I imagine. So imagine your little things costing a lot more just because we want everyone else to make a little more. I want people to be able to afford things. But what the mayor's office can do is start talking to these businesses and asking, why is this like this? Why does this cost this much? What processes can we do as people from the city to make life easier for the people running these businesses? And maybe when we all come together, we can come up with a better solution.
Thanks, Dr. Straag. Kaz.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that the price of cars is as out of reach as it's being perpetrated to be. However, I do think that the price is inflated by one simple aspect of the city. And I think that has to do with grinding. There are certain aspects of this city where you can work without ever meeting another person in this city and make hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're willing to put the time in. Now, if that's your thing, I think it's great. But for the entire economy of the city to suffer because a few people have that ability, which is good. I'm glad that they have that. I don't think that that prices should suffer as a result, especially in regards to housing. Aspects of my plan that I think would be effective in addressing this would be to increase the truck yard's capabilities. I think that the truck yard is a great aspect of the city, and that trucking is an industry that is growing and needs to be taken care of in the same way that Ballin' on a Budget has seen. We've seen Ballin' on a Budget come out of nowhere and skyrocket into a successful business. I think that trucking can do the same and should be able to do the same. But when it comes to the aspects of grinding, I think that we need to find a way to address that and make it so that these people can actually interact with other people in the city rather than just mindlessly drone on and drive the prices up because you have some guy that nobody knows that's got 10 $1 million cars. It's an
Thank you,
aspect of the
Kaz.
city that needs to be addressed. Yeah.
Kyder.
So wages are obviously at the heart of this issue. As somebody who has lived on the baseline government income for almost 6 months, it's been incredibly difficult to realize that the $100 an hour that I'm receiving is just simply not enough to even cover food, let alone car costs. I understand, though, people are coming to the city to live the Los Santos life. Although Barron's price might seem a little inflated at $300K, most of the vehicles that I ask newcomers what they're interested in having as their first car are between the 100 and 200K price point, which is, to me, asinine. I think that is detracting from the experience here. I absolutely believe, though, that there is more that we can be doing from increasing the baseline if we have the discussions. From those of you that were present during our previous interrupted mayoral debate, you'll remember I had a certain magic trick, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do that right now, wherein I upload the plan to be accessible via the internet. And there it goes. The idea, though, is any promise from any mayor on this stage right now needs to be thought of very carefully, approached very carefully. Any objections need to be addressed, recognized, and fulfilled. Otherwise, the plan will not work through it. We can't just say, as mayors, we want the hourly rate to be increased fourfold to cover costs of food and basic car maintenance. That'll never work. We need to have constant discussions with transparency, documentation, and say that these are the symptoms and these are the direct benefits to it. There are a lot of people who are... Oh, go for it. Yep.
So the last question in the economy section then is about developing the city outside of the bounds that most people typically are. So we've heard from one of the candidates about Ballin' on a Budget, which is up north. Is any part of your plan developing Paleto or any other northern parts of the city? And this time we'll start with Dr. Straag.
I have been speaking to a couple of people who wanted to start businesses up in the Paleto area and am quite eager to get that kind of attention and really just foot traffic in a part of the state that we don't really go to that often. When you think of Paleto, you think, okay, so they've got like that one gas station. Well, there's so much more up there, and we're not exploring that. And I think if we wind up taking that opportunity to see the kinds of great ideas that people have and giving them the space to do it, like Paleto, like Sandy Shores, like Grapeseed, we can make some real changes and improve a lot of people's lives. People go into wanting to start their own business because they have a passion for something. They have a dream that they want to see happen. And that dream isn't always going to happen in the idle streets of Los Santos. Like, sometimes you need a little more seclusion. Sometimes you need a little closer, tight-knit community. And I think it's vital that we work our asses off to make places like that accessible, not just for those dreamers, but also the people who want to help see those other dreams become a reality.
All right, thanks, Dr. Straub. Kaz?
Yeah. I've highlighted in the past debate that I think that the opportunity for Paleto to become a red light district of San Andreas provides excellent, unique opportunity, not only in terms of the industries that could be up there, but also the dollars that could be made and the experiences that could be had. In regards to other locations in San Andreas, I think that Sandy Shores has an excellent opportunity to be developed for off-road racing. I think that there is a legal pathway to get that started. And I think that just like that, each city around San Andreas needs to be developed in a way where we don't think about, let's just have a restaurant over here because it's different, but what is the unique angle that we can attack at that can provide a unique experience and a uniqueness to that location and that location alone, an exclusivity of experience. In regards to Paleto, it's the red light district. Sandy Shores, it might be racing. Grapeseed, who knows? But the opportunities are there. We just need to get creative.
All right, thank you, Kaz. Kyder? Kyder?
Excuse me. Sorry about that. I agree with Kaz. The idea that any part of this state that is available to us should be brimming with opportunity, and the very northern reaches are often neglected. That is often because there is not a feasible car repair shop or a restaurant or an event hall or a racing ring, whatever it is. With my plan, we can all discuss what the needs of that sort of environment are needed to be present before a thriving community can be truly established. The difficulty is we have some disagreeing opinions over there. The issue is anybody that is running for mayor needs to have the decency of documenting all the different suggestions and identifying the path to being there. We can't just open up businesses up in the north and expect them to take off. Pop's Diner had a passionate group of people, but ultimately they closed down their doors rather quickly. Kaz is a little bit more focused on the how. I'm more focused on the who. And once we identify those passionate people, we know those are the people that are going to be sticking through the process while we refine it, while we find the friction points, while we find the hangups, identify and address them. And that way we can have even better growth in the future with them being as the trailblazers.
All right, thanks, Kyder. So at this point, we will move into the government systems portion of our debate. We'll be starting this question with Kaz. And the question is, based on recent court cases and the resurgence of the Department of Justice, what changes would you like to see to the police force, penal code, criminal justice system? And what is your plan for implementing those changes? Oh, sorry. We'll go back to Barron. Barron,
Thank you.
on developing Paleto in northern areas.
So I'm right in line with what Kaz and Kyder have said. Basically, there needs to be points of interest, and it needs to be unique for these places to really thrive. So we know that in the past, extreme sports events typically like to happen either in Sandy Shores or up near Chiliad, and that Paleto seems to be more of the tourist destination. So you go there for things that you just can't get anywhere else. So I'm right in line with facilitating these types of loosened laws or other things that would allow these types of companies to operate out of those areas and attract citizens to visit.
All right, thanks, Barron. I apologize for skipping you. All right, back to Kaz and government systems. Plans and changes for the police force, penal code, criminal justice system, and how do you implement those changes?
The police, I feel, are misunderstood in a lot of ways. I think that while they do try, they have a one-tracked mind for solving issues. And after speaking to officers, I believe that a solution needs to come from the top, and that can be done through elections for sheriff. There are quite a few BCSO that are in favor of this, and why not expand it to LSPD, elections for chief? I think leadership from the top and providing a single point of actionable accountability would go a long way in holding the police department accountable for behavior. In regards to government systems, I would like to see DOJ and SAC take possession of business approvals. Those would go through a council. You would go on a trial period, and when you have proven yourself via operating hours that are checked in on randomly, revenue streams, extensive business operation plans, then you could get approved, and we can lead you along the track to get salary, to get location. What was the last question?
And what's
The
your
last
plan for
element?
implementing these changes or criminal justice system?
For the criminal justice system, we have to work with the Department of Corrections to get the very basics of the prison fixed. We need to fix the food. We need to get food in there so that we don't have people starving 24/7. We need to have a viable source of water, and they need stuff to do. We spoke last week about, a solution to give them something to do is they can go break rocks and donate all their materials for the city. I disagree. I think that while that's a start, they should be compensated for that, and they should also have the option to engage in recreational activities. I need to work with DOC in order to do so, to learn what the specifics and the mechanisms are to actually implement those.
All right, thank you, Kaz. Kyder.
Thank you. The idea that anybody can wave a wand and produce results is fantasy. The idea that we have to have discourse, find the holes in any implementation. Kaz just brought up the great example of breaking rocks. How would that work? Who would get those materials? Would the prison benefit? How would the people benefit, more importantly? These are all different topics that I wish all of you would join my roundtables, my town halls that I'll be hosting every week to make sure that we all have our say.
Yo.
So even if you do agree with Kaz or you do agree with Barron and he is not your mayor, I'm going to bring those topics into a central conversation to make sure that we address them. Any topics I suggest right now would be wholeheartedly inadequate because they have not gone through the whole process of evaluating what would be the most beneficial for each and every citizen, not just the criminals, not just the cops. I do believe that there is a opportunity though that some of my competitors here have not addressed, and that is enabling people to better open up lucrative, functioning, and enjoyable businesses. The people that fly into the city time and again want to have a quality car or a quality place to live, and they will turn to crime 9 times out of 10, casually breaking into banks, casually robbing stores to make their dreams happen. Instead, they should run businesses that'll free up the police to do actual police work. Shit for sheriff.
All right, thank you, Kyder. Barron.
Would you mind repeating the question for me, please?
Sure. So based on recent court cases and the resurgence of DOJ, what changes would you like to see in the police force, penal code, criminal justice system, and how do you implement those changes?
One thing that I've always found myself particularly good at is fostering community and finding the middle ground to make sure everybody at least has a reasonable compromise, because obviously there are just conflicting goals in everything that goes on. So in the past, I've always been on good terms with a lot of the leaders of the gangs in the city, being able to get statements from them or just talk to them man to man. And I think that provides valuable insight into how they operate, what kind of things they want to see happen, and then bring that to the representatives in the police department so that they know that these guys are obviously human. They obviously have feelings. They have goals, and sometimes there's better ways to go about things than brute force. So fostering community between everybody, working with the DOJ, working with criminals, working with the police department to facilitate a happy middle ground for everybody, I think that's something that speaks for itself with my experience.
All right, thank you, Barron. Dr. Straag.
one of the things that Kaz brought up is that Bolingbrook as a whole is a whole. It is a desolate place with no respect for humanity. And let's be perfectly clear. The people who go into Bolingbrook, the people who have committed crimes and have been arrested, they've gone to trial, they've been knocked out guilty, they go to prison. That doesn't mean their lives should end going into that prison. These are people who have families, who have friends. These are people who deserve dignity, food, water. Heaven forbid we put a doctor on staff there. Maybe actually have some people looking over these guys instead of the one wayward security guard that always seems to be on a smoke break. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but I'm glad that guy's union. That's fantastic for him. But the kinds of things I want to implement are starting to make actual people invested in rehabilitation in prison. Because a lot of people don't seem to realize it's not just a waiting room to go back out and do more crime. We should be using this opportunity while you're in prison to learn new skills, learn new trades, think about businesses, get access to an actual future as opposed to one where you're ruining the lives of everyone that you love. Let's all work together, people.
I got you.
All right, thanks, Dr. Straag. So this next question actually leads in perfectly from that answer. And it's, does your plan include any ideas for rehabilitation for criminals and healthcare costs? And we'll start this time with Kyder.
Thank you so much. My plan is literally the plan, and I invite everybody to go right now and download it and check it out, because it's a perfect framework for any suggestions for what rehabilitation is. What is it defined as? What does it look like? What will be beneficial to everybody that is in the system, whether it's their first felony or their 1000th felony? I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to express themselves in a constructive format, in a constructive way, to make sure that any suggestion is not one that is too small to be humored, to be entertained, to be included. It's no doubt that we have a lot of overlap between the candidates here. My platform, though, is based on delivering the results and being transparent. So if the DOC is delayed from a Kyder administration, you will see and know why. And I invite you all to keep me accountable to the campaign promises that I'm making of being transparent and delivering those results. You will see constant communication, and you will know when something has not been resolved, and that is why it has not been implemented. A doctor on staff, possibly that would be a great idea. Who knows if it'll work? Who would volunteer for it? Would they feel isolated?
Yeah,
Would they
I'm not
feel
allowed in here.
constant abuse? These are some of the suggestions that I would love to bring to the entire city, giving power to the people, and if they work out, we will implement them. That's my promise to you.
All right, thank you, Kyder. Barron.
We know that currently there is much needed changes to the rehabilitation program at Bolingbrook. We know that they are left there for dead, that nobody checks in on them. They're not even fed. They're not given anything to sustain themselves mentally or physically. This is a very big priority for the city at large. No matter who ends up being mayor, this should definitely be first thing on the docket, because, as I've said, these criminals are still people. They are still deserving of dignity, and I'm echoing Straag a lot here, because they deserve better. We all deserve better.
All right, thank you, Barron. Dr. Straag.
So, I think the one thing about rehabilitation in and around the prison system, yes, of course there are things that we absolutely know need to change. We know there needs to be food and water. We know there needs to be warm beds. We know there needs to be clean sheets. We know there needs to be a doctor on staff, some way to get them medical treatment in the event that something happens when they're largely being neglected. But what happens when they get out of prison? What happens when they get back onto the streets? I want to implement something that would encourage business owners to actually hire these felons to get them back onto the straight and narrow. If you don't have the opportunity to be able to eat or breathe without, suffocating under the weight of capitalism, you're going to go back to crime, and you're going to keep falling on that treadmill over and over again. I want businesses to be able to know that when they come and they hire someone who has gone through the rehabilitation programs, that they will be reimbursed by the city for their efforts, because they're making the city a better place to live. You're giving these people an opportunity to change and wildly alter their lives for the better. And every one of these effects has a rippling effect on the people around them, on the community at large, and I think that's where I would want to focus.
All right, thank you, Dr. Straag. Kaz?
I think something that the other candidates here haven't had to deal with personally, or at least to the extent that I have, is jail, getting arrested, dealing with the police, living the life of a criminal. What you find when you do that is that these people aren't bad people. I spoke to a guy yesterday. He said, the first time I went to jail, I ended up spending 50 extra months there because I didn't know how to get out of jail. It's simple stuff like that that gets overlooked in this city that needs to be addressed. And Straag is right. When these people get out, they need to have a pathway towards a job, and they need to have something else, friends that can lead them in the proper direction. But when they have that direction, often it's too late. Oh, you already have felonies. Well, I can't be a mechanic anymore. Oh, you already have felonies. Well, I can't sell cars anymore. These people need the ability to get a second chance, have their sheets cleaned, to get expulsion. My plan specifically looks to ask for a single second chance for people in this city that have felonies, that have misdemeanors. A single one chance that they get to wipe the sheet clean, to actually try and to work that job that they probably didn't even know they existed when they ran their first store, because they got caught up. It happens to everybody. When I had my expulsions, I always tried to work legal jobs, and I think other people deserve that opportunity. But they're not going to get that if they don't have a clean record and if they're mistreated throughout the entire criminal justice system.
All right, thank you, Kaz. So our final question for this evening, we'll start with Barron, and it's about violence in the city. So as we've seen at the previous debate, violence is an ongoing trend here in Los Santos. So how do you plan to work with gangs, police, and more to try to keep citizens and the streets safe? And does your plan include any kind of gun license reform measures?
So, yes, it's obvious that violence is a big problem in the city, considering what happened at the last mayoral town hall at Weasel. My plan is to make citizens feel more empowered and that they have more options available that is not involving resorting to violence. I think the main component of this is getting the Chamber of Commerce started so that citizens have somewhere to go to for business resources and the options available for them. This would include rehabilitation programs for those getting out of jail and job placement for those people, because it will act as basically a job placement agency as well. As far as guns and restructuring of gun licensing, I know that there's been a few suggestions of arming business owners with higher power weaponry. I don't think that's the solution, because in the past, we saw that certain businesses had these weapons, and then they were then targeted by gangs because they had these weapons, and that was the easiest way for these gangs to acquire them. So really, I think higher power weaponry, not necessarily needed at this point, because if the gangs want it, they have access to it through their typical robbing of cops and other criminal activities that they do. I don't think it facilitates a safer environment for the average citizen, providing these more easily to businesses and otherwise.
All right, thank you, Barron. Dr. Straag?
A lot of the violence in the city goes away when opportunities are created. A lot of the seedier aspects go away when people realize that there is another path. There is a way to move forward and be successful without having to resort to violence, to drugs, to all of this stuff. And this is such a beautiful and vibrant city, and I know that there's creative people here who want to do what's best for themselves and for the people around them. I know it in my heart because otherwise I wouldn't be up here running for mayor. When we have these opportunities put back into people's hands, it's going to be a lot smoother. It's going to be a lot nicer. But let's address one thing off the bat. I know a couple of my candidates up here, specifically Kaz and Kyder, are going to say something to the effect of, I want ammunition to have bigger guns for people who have the licenses.
Whoa!
I don't want bigger guns on the street. I don't want extra guns on the street. What I would like, however, is I would like ammunition to sell baseball bats to people. Because, let's face it, we like playing baseball. I want ammunition to be able to sell crowbars to people. Because sometimes you've got to pull a cat down out of a tree. Or what have you. But guns? You don't need guns to be successful.
Oh,
especially
yeah, no.
here.
All right, thanks, Dr. Straag. Kaz?
Yeah. My question for any of the candidates that are up here that are thinking about gun control and reform and violence.
Water. I'm gonna die.
Have you been in a gunfight before? Have you been in a gunfight before? Kyder, probably been in a gunfight before, and that's why you agree with me. Some people can't be dealt with words, and that's just a fact. I wish it weren't the reality, but you'd be silly not to think that sometimes you don't need a weapon in order to resolve your problems. And the only thing that happens when you aren't properly armed is that you get hurt. You get hurt and you get robbed, and it'll happen again if you can't protect yourself. In regards to violence and gangs in this city, I wish gangs only aimed their attacks at each other, but that's just not the case. Innocent people are getting hurt, and they don't deserve it. What they do deserve is the adequate tools to be able to protect themselves. That's why I believe that shotguns should be legal for purchase for private citizens, and it is no laughing matter. We do need to take it seriously, and we need to be heavily restrictive on who gets access to those things. One of you spoke about businesses that did have access to higher firepower. What you didn't see is those businesses successfully defend themselves from attack after attack after attack when people wanted to intimidate and harass them. So I ask you guys, are you okay not having a way to protect yourself?
Hell no.
I would think no.
Thank you, Kaz. Kyder?
So, Kaz is absolutely right. Without additional firepower, we are lambs at the slaughter. We are removed of our ability to fight back, and that robs us of agency, that robs us of autonomy to go about our daily lives. If Burger Shot is got a bunch of people in there, they are going to be that much more dangerous, and they're going to be that much harder to extract hostages from because of the unknown of who is packing what. I think that there's a plan in place that we should discuss this, but as a member of the staff that's up on the stage right now that has had their husband murdered in the city while he was out exploring by vicious gangs, I see that there are definitely some opportunities to improve and include everybody in this roundtable discussion that we want to host. I want to make it really clear, when you are voting for mayor, you're also voting for deputy mayor, so whoever else ends up in second place automatically becomes the vice mayor, for lack of a better term. We need to make sure that we have somebody in the office that can produce results for you. So you can choose your favorites. You can also choose for the person who also will be guaranteed to give you the results that you deserve, as well as the transparency. It's a hard life out there without your spouse. It's hard out there having survived assassination attempts, and I feel absolutely toothless because I'm unable to bite back the crime that is affecting my life every day.
All right, thank you, Kyder. So that's the final question for this mayoral debate, but we'd like to end giving the candidates a chance to speak about themselves and their platform. So each of you will get 90 additional seconds to wrap up your thoughts and tell us why we should vote for you. We'll start with Dr. Straag.
I think I'm going to spend this entire time on the guns thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's insane to me that you think that having a bigger and better gun somehow makes you safer. It makes you a bigger target to other people. It is a thing that people will focus on to take from you. And if someone comes at you with a gun drawn first, do you value your own life enough to just arbitrarily pull out a gun and start trying to fire back? No, they have you dead to rights. Listen, keep yourself safe and don't do anything fucking stupid. You do not need to be a hero. These guys up here think this is like, we're not in the Wild West. This isn't cowboy shit. We are human beings with lives and families. We have people who give a shit about us. And I absolutely cannot stand the idea that people think, oh, well, if I have a bigger gun, I'll be safer. You are not safer having a gun. You are not safer walking these streets with a second gun or a third gun, because it doesn't matter. Because if it's on you, you are a threat. You are a threat to someone, and you're a threat to yourself. I have walked these streets with no gun the entirety of my time here. I have hurt 0 people.
Uh-oh.
Man
Man just got executed.
Is that a sniper on the horizon?
Yeah, if he had a gun, that would not have happened.
That's what we think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, at least he got to the end of his sentence.
All right,
we
well,
do
we'll
want to
come
keep
back
our
to that
hands.
thought for his final 20 seconds. Kaz, do you want to take it away for now?
Yeah, sure. You know, I think that Straag nailed it on the head, but backwards. He said, it's not cowboy shit out here. Yes, it fucking is. Each of us have had to deal with getting stopped in the street, getting ripped out of our car, and having to deal with some fucking nonsense because some guy wants to go rob a liquor store at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you have a gun on you, that shit ain't happening. And he says, oh, what if he has his gun drawn first? Well, if you're with a colleague, it doesn't matter. What he fails to realize, or what he fails to have, is experience in regards to gunfights. And the mood changes when somebody has to deal with you on equal footing. When they have the advantage, they can ask you for whatever they want. Now back to my other platform, just to wrap up on that. I do want to make DOC a focus of my platform. The criminals are treated like shit, and that's why they act like shit. If you provide them with ample opportunity to engage in other activities, included a reliable source back to legal life, then some of them will take it. Some of them might take it all the way to Polito, where I hope to establish a red light district to expand small businesses, not just there, but in other areas as well. Chumash, Grapeseed, and Sandy. I expect to do that by using SAC to provide salaries for small businesses. Thank you for my time.
Thank you, Kaz. Kyder.
Woo! That's a tough act to follow. Kaz and I have been getting along for quite some time. He was actually the first person in this city that I met and was one of the first people to ever tell me to arm myself and protect myself against the present and clear danger. I've met so many of you and had such a great time getting to know everyone's abilities, desires, needs, that I've helped oftentimes putting my own agenda on hold to support you, to attend your events at Tequila La, to talk to my friend in Korea to get new cigarettes for my friend from Redwood, to hang out with Weasel News and enjoy their events. I want to spend my time to just say, I invite you all to please review the plan that I have submitted. It is 10 pages for a good reason, because it includes everything that we have just discussed, but it all fits into a nice framework so we can have frequent milestones and drive that project forward, whatever it is. If DOC is the first thing on your minds, it is on mine too. If it's careers for people up in the north, it's on mine too. I want to spend the last 20 seconds or so that I have to just thank the people that have believed in me. I was the first mayoral candidate to successfully complete all my documentation, and I know that that speed and agility is what we need. I also want to say thank you to Teddy for believing in me, because he really did support me even in my hardest times here in the city. If we can all look after each other, we can prevent another Teddy from happening. If you have a Teddy in your lives, please give them a hug. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyder.
Nina, will you be my Teddy?
Barron.
Yeah.
Thank you guys all for coming out tonight. And I want to close this up by reiterating some key points from my platform. So we know that these candidates here behind me, we all have great ideas, but I have the track record of making these ideas into something successful. Weasel did not exist when I came to the city. And within a few months, we got up to a staff size of about 30 employees. We were wildly successful, having multiple departments. I think about 7 different departments inside Weasel, focusing on news, media, entertainment, security, and events. So with my history, I can help turn the city around and get things flowing smoothly. In regards to SAC, Weasel Creative was basically a carbon copy of what the vision is for that. And we got many businesses started through helping fund them, providing them with the resources and people to make them successful, and connecting people with like ideas together. Fostering community is going to be the main goal of my platform, which should help reduce violence, should make people feel more at home, should help people accomplish their financial goals, and help them feel that they have a strong sense of self and a strong sense of community here.
All right, thank you, Barron.
I love you, Barron.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Straag, I think you have 20 seconds left if there's anything you'd like to say.
No, I said everything I needed to. I actually had my own timer up here. I'm good.
Okay. Well, this concludes our mayoral debate. Hopefully you've gotten information that's useful for you today so that you can vote with an informed decision next week. Aziza, do you have any updates on voting times?
I'm speaking to see if we can have the voting booths open as soon as tomorrow evening. If so, there will be announcements. I'm looking to have them open for a 24-hour period to allow everyone
Fuck
as
you,
great an
Aziza.
opportunity to vote as they can have.
All right, thanks everybody for coming out. Candidates, if you'd like to mingle, feel free.
I made my decision.
Thank you very much for coming, guys.
I second that.